and then someone else comes and takes over and cooks it. Now, if the men fail in achieving that, the women will have gone around and collected all this stuff and the mulga trees, the seeds, and crushed it all up, and they make big balls of like carbohydrate, and it's good energy food. So and they can store that, so they've always got food. Australia's just had a really bad drought, and in the 1930s, 1930s was our last really bad drought, and it doesn't just affect like farmers and whatever. The people around here were affected very badly as well. A lot of clans fled to the rock, followed their songline because they've got historic songs that will take them to the rock. That talk about maybe other droughts and how they survived down there. So they've gone there and lived purely on witchetty grubs almost, just from the surrounding areas. Witchetty grubs, like I said, very high in protein and fats, and because it's a big rock, like this, there's a lot more chance of being able to collect water and stuff. They wouldn't swim and bathe and wash in the water because that's their drinking water. Alright. Now because you look out in the bush and you think to collect food out here, it's a lot harder than if you're at somewhere like Sydney or Kakadu, where you've got the ocean as an ecosystem for starters, but lots more fresh water and snakes and turtles and, much more abundance of wildlife. So you get these lands around here, they're much smaller because they can survive around much smaller areas. Now this book, it says the rock when it was handed over, right, it says here it's in Pitjantjatjara country, right, and they call that Nangu out here. When they came out here, they were the ones that signed, we don't talk about this and I'm not supposed to talk about it, but this book from the first ever ranger out here, all the stories that were told to him were from literature, right, which is where the canyon was. So I'm not saying anything, but to me, literature, Ayers Rock falls in the literature songline area. These guys understand what they're sort of getting out of it, I suppose. Different things around here as well. Over here in the Kimberley, that says Panuba, but it should be Banuba. This was a fella called Jandamara. That was the first ever resistance against European settlement with firearms. Right? He staged a bit of a sad story. He was 13 years old and he heard that these white fellas would give you food and give you money and this and tobacco and all this stuff and clothes if you could shear sheep for them. This is in the early stages of sheep being up here. They didn't last very long. They only lasted a few years up here. Imagine wearing a woolly jumper up in the Kimberley. But he just took off and walked about 30 or 40 miles, got a job. He was a good kid. By the time he was, after 12 months, he was one of the best shearers around there, and he had pride. They gave him a gun and he ended up helping a policeman. Some of his family, Ellen Mara, who was his elder, it's like your grandfather, got arrested for stealing a sheep because the sheep were going down and destroying all their water. Right? So he got arrested for that. Jandamara got told to keep guard on them in the jail cell, but it was his grandfather, so he let him out, and then he got hunted, and they started to say that he was magical because they thought he'd died like 3 or 4 times, been shot. They cornered him in a cave, and he actually dug through the cave and got out the other side, and he ended up getting his thumb shot off, and he bled to death. Got septicemia or whatever.